It's a Tuesday in November when they bring the body to you. Not to the warden, not to the guards, to you. The man's name was Darnell Reese. He was 41 years old. He owed $800 to a shot caller in D Block, a man you personally promoted 8 months ago because he moved product without drama and kept his people in line. Darnell Reese had been paying down the debt in installments, 50 here, 60 there, passed through a contact visit on the last Saturday of every month. He was 3 payments from being clean. Now he's in a body bag in the prison morgue, and 2 guards are quietly waiting for your explanation because they've learned, over 3 long years, that the explanation always comes from you. You didn't order it. That's the problem. You sit in the chair that the warden doesn't know belongs to you, inside a maintenance closet that smells like bleach and old concrete, and you think about what this means. Someone inside your network made a call they weren't authorized to make. Someone decided $800 was worth a man's life without clearing it up the chain. And if you don't respond in the next 72 hours, that someone will assume the silence is permission. You've been inside Hargrove Correctional for 11 years. You came in at 23 on an armed robbery charge, 14 years, possible parole at 9. You made parole. You chose to stay. Not because you had nowhere to go, because out there you were nobody, and here you were the axis around which everything turns. The first year was survival. Everyone's first year is survival. You learned which guards took money and which ones didn't. You learned where the lines were between the 3 major factions, the Brotherhood and A Block, the Latin Kings who controlled the kitchen and the laundry, and the Vice Lords, your people, scattered across B and D and the newer wing they'd built in 2014. The Vice Lords had numbers but no coordination. They were muscle without a brain, and muscle without a brain gets exploited. The man who ran things then was called Bishop. He was 57 years old and had been inside for 22 years and had the kind of authority that came from simply outlasting everyone else. He wasn't smart. He was just still alive. You understood early on that those are very different things. You made yourself useful to Bishop without ever threatening him. You handled correspondence, coded letters that went out in legal envelopes, routed through a paralegal named Yolanda who worked for a law firm that had never once set foot in a courtroom. You handled disputes between lower-ranked members with a calm that Bishop lacked. When Bishop got angry, people got hurt, and guards got involved, and the whole system contracted for weeks. When you got involved, problems disappeared quietly, and business continued. Bishop noticed. He trusted you the way powerful men trust people they don't fully understand, carefully and with one hand always near the exit. He died of a heart attack in 2019. The official story was natural causes. You were the only other person in the room. You've never told anyone what happened. You never will. What most people don't understand about power inside a place like Hargrove is that it has nothing to do with violence. Violence is expensive. Violence draws attention. Violence is what the weak use when they have no other currency. What you control is information. You know which guard is sleeping with a nurse on the 2nd floor and has been for 4 years, and how his wife doesn't know, and what that's worth when you need a phone left unattended in a supply room for 40 minutes. You know which administrator approved a contract for the prison's food service provider that should have gone to competitive bid but didn't, and whose brother-in-law owns the company that won. You know which correctional officer moonlights as a courier for a distribution network in the county, moving product he thinks has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you. You know these things because you built a system for knowing them. It took 6 years and cost approximately $400,000 routed through 11 different holding points outside the walls. Every new intake that comes through your faction goes through a 40-minute conversation, casual, friendly, not an interrogation, where they tell you who they know, what they did, who they owe, and what they're afraid of. That information goes into a ledger that exists only in your head. Nobody gets anything from you without giving you something first. The phone network alone generates $60,000 a month. Phones are contraband at Hargrove. Phones are also the most valuable object on earth when you're doing 8 years and your lawyer charges $400 an hour. You don't sell the phones, you rent access to them by the call, managed through 3 intermediaries, none of whom knows the full shape of the system they're part of. The money exits the institution through commissary accounts, property purchases, and a network of outside accounts maintained by family members who are told only what they need to know. You have a contact at the DA's office. You have a retired detective who owes you something he can never repay. You have a city councilman whose nephew has been inside for 2 years and whose early release you've been quietly facilitating, favor by favor, across 18 months. None of them know your name. None of them know where the string they're pulling leads. The Darnell Reese situation takes you 36 hours to resolve. The shot caller who ordered the hit, a man called Dupree, 29 years old, clever but impatient, did it because Reese had been talking, not to authorities, to another faction. Dupree found out and made a decision he thought fell within his mandate. He was wrong about that, but he wasn't entirely wrong about the threat. Reese had been feeding low-level information to a Latin Kings contact in exchange for protection he apparently felt he needed. The payments were a cover. He was never actually settling the debt. He was buying time. You think about this for a long time in the dark of your cell at 3 a.m., which is when you do your best thinking. Dupree acted without authorization, which is a violation that cannot go unanswered. If you let it pass, you are telling every ambitious shot caller in the facility that the chain of command is optional, that the cost of asking permission is higher than the cost of skipping it. The entire structure you've built over a decade depends on the opposite being true. But Dupree was also right that Reese was a problem. If you punish Dupree for solving a real problem, even in the wrong way, you are telling your people that loyalty to process matters more than loyalty to outcomes. That's also dangerous. You make your decision by morning. Dupree gets demoted, not publicly, not humiliatingly. That would make him an enemy, and enemies inside these walls are a liability you can't afford. He gets quietly reassigned, his responsibilities contracted, his income reduced. The people around him will notice, he will feel it, he will understand why without you ever having to say it. The Latin Kings contact who was receiving information from Reese is identified and handled through a different channel entirely, a negotiation with their leadership that results in a territorial concession in the laundry you've been wanting for 8 months. You present Reese's information sharing as a mutual problem, resolved together. You say nothing about Dupree. You say nothing about who made the call. By Thursday, it's over. No investigation, no retaliation, no disruption. Darnell Reese is buried in the prison cemetery, unmourned by the people who killed him, unavenged by the people who should have protected him. You feel the weight of that, and you let yourself feel it, because the day you stop feeling it is the day you become something you can't come back from. Your parole date came and went in 2021. Your lawyer filed paperwork. You declined the hearing. The official reason was that you had a pending civil matter that required you to remain available to the court. Nobody questioned it. Nobody looks too hard at a man who doesn't want to leave prison. It confirms every assumption they already have about people like you. The truth is simpler and more complicated. Outside, you're a 40-year-old black man with a felony record, no college degree, and no employment history that anyone on the outside could verify. The economy you've built here took 11 years and cannot be transplanted. The relationships, the leverage, the geography of power, all of it is specific to this building, these 1,400 men, this particular configuration of need and fear and ambition. Out there, you'd start from zero. In here, you are the answer to every question. You've thought about what happens when you eventually leave, and you will eventually leave, because staying forever is its own kind of defeat. You've been building toward it for 3 years. You have a man on the outside, a former inmate named Curtis, who has been quietly constructing the civil infrastructure for what comes next. 3 LLCs, 2 properties, a consulting firm with no clients, and a very clean paper trail. When you walk out of Hargrove, you will step into a life that has been waiting for you, assembled piece by piece from inside these walls. But that's not today. Today, a corrections officer named Whitfield has just asked to see you.
Not through the usual channels, not through the system of looks and folded papers and carefully timed commissary interactions you've established with the staff who work with you. Whitfield came directly to your cell during free hour and asked quietly, with his eyes moving the wrong way, whether you had a minute. Whitfield has been at Hargrove for 6 years. He's not on your payroll. He's not on anyone's payroll as far as you know, and you know most things. He runs clean. He reports violations. He's the kind of officer who believes in the job, which means him coming to you off the books with nervous eyes means something has changed. Something has shifted in the geology of this place, and he's felt the tremor before you have. You tell him, yes, you have a minute. You keep your voice easy and your face the way you always keep your face, open, patient, mildly curious, like a man with nothing to hide and all the time in the world. He tells you there's a federal investigation, not into the gang, into the administration.
3 officials, possibly 4, connected to a contracting scandal that has apparently reached people at the state level. The kind of investigation that, when it opens a door, tends to open every door. The kind that brings people in suits who ask questions that aren't about what they're pretending to be about. He tells you this because he thinks you can help him. He doesn't say that. He doesn't have to. You nod slowly. You thank him for coming to you. You tell him you'll think on it, and he should go about his day like this conversation never happened. After he leaves, you sit with the information for 3 full minutes without moving. A federal investigation is not a crisis. A federal investigation is an opportunity if you move correctly and quickly, and you don't make the mistake of thinking you can control it. You can't control it. You can only shape the terrain it walks across. You already know 2 of the 3 officials he's talking about. One of them has done business with you, indirectly, through 4 removes, but the thread exists. If investigators pull that thread before you cut it, the entire 11-year architecture of what you've built could come apart in ways that even your best contingencies don't cover. You have perhaps 72 hours before the situation defines itself without your input. You stand, you straighten your shirt, you walk out of your cell toward the yard, and in your head you are already 3 moves ahead, mapping the decisions, calculating the costs, weighing the variables, the way you've been doing since you were 23 years old, and realize that the only way to survive in a world built to destroy you was to understand it better than the people running it. The yard is loud and bright and full of men who have no idea what's coming. You find your table, you sit down, you wait for the people who will come to you, because they always come to you, because that is what it means to be the center of something. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought moves through like a cold current. The system never loses. The system never lets go. The only question that has ever mattered is whether you can make the system need you more than it needs to be rid of you. So far, the answer has been yes. You're not sure how much longer that holds.